by Verizon Fios. Want to thank our good friends at Verizon Fios for all that you guys do. As I mentioned at the top of the show, ways to get in contact with us. You can find me on Twitter at The Real Ted Hicks or Late Night Parent. You can find us on Facebook.com/Late Night Parents. You can also go to the website, LateNightParents.com, for all the latest blog posts and everything else that's on Late Night Parents. You know, we do try our best to talk a little technology, education, sports. Of course, everything is wrapped around the parenting topic. And yes, we do product reviews all the time on Late Night Parents. So, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I had just made it back in time on Long Island, took the wrong train. Oh, it was a utter zoo. But that's in the life of a dad. You know, that's what we do. We're always running around. We're always either trying to take your kid, your child to, you know, whether it's basketball practice or cheerleading or soccer or baseball, or, you know, if there's a specific party going around. So today was the Freudian slip, getting on the wrong train, headed home. Thankfully, my wife, as usual, had my back all the way and came and picked me up from Suffolk County. So a nice little 46-minute drive for her. But we were able to make it 5 minutes before the show started. Really, really, really grateful and excited about that. And that's the best thing about being a partner, having a partner, someone that does have your back with the kids, someone that does have your back mentally and physically, you know, and emotionally also. So that is the story of Ted Hicks. And, you know, the story itself changes every day, all the time, because it seems like there's some type of new adventure. I see we have someone in the queue, and I believe it's the second scheduled guest. Jamel, how you doing?
Ted, how are you?
Pretty good. How were things, man? I gotta tell you, I wrote down the correct pronunciation of your last name, and I don't want to butcher it. So I would prefer for you to give me the correct pronunciation of it.
Absolutely. First name is Jamel, and last name is Chikwueze. Last name is Chikwueze. It's actually Nigerian, and it stands for God's appointed one.
Okay. That's excellent. Jamel, what was the great thing about it is for all of us. Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you and welcome you to the podcast. Thanks for taking the time out. But you know, every private message is a public message. You sent me a private message saying, Ted, I gotta go pick up the little one, and I gotta handle the little one. So if you hear little voices in the background, I hope that's okay. Of course, that's okay. That's what we are. We're dad.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that.
How would we be any other way? So, tell me this: how many children do you have? What are their ages? The floor is yours. Jamel, tell us about yourself.
Yeah. So my wife and I have been married about 4.5 years now, and we have a daughter by the name of Simone, and she is 18 months. And Simone is our first child.
Wow.
And yeah, she's just been a joy and a blessing to have in our lives. And this just a little bit of background about me. I am from Syracuse, New York, where I grew up at in Syracuse, New York. Born in the Bronx, New York. Moved around a few. Lived in Philadelphia. Went to school in Central Pennsylvania grad school. I was fortunate to go to grad school and went there in West Virginia. And got into the field of college athletics, transitioned over to recreation, and then obviously I had the just blessing of having a beautiful child, which inspired Diversity Dad, just to speak to a little bit of the situation that I went through growing up. I was in a single parent household. My dad was in and out of the relationship, so really had to grow up and be that person for my little sister. So, and we are 10 years apart. So I had to be mom, dad, brother. So it was challenging, but I really wanted to highlight people that kind of going through that situation now with being in a single parent household, and how did they get through that situation? Whether it's family support, friend support, and that's kind of where I picked diversity. Because everyone has a diverse situation, as it's the name Diversity Dad. Everyone's going through a diverse situation. No story is the same. And I really want to speak to Latinos and African Americans primarily, just because unfortunately a lot of us, our upbringings are in poor backgrounds as far as just financially, maybe not having certain opportunities towards resources. So it makes it a little challenging. But want to highlight those dads and on my podcast, really have them speak of their journey through their life, and hopefully people are listening that may have been through that or are currently going through a tough situation. Again, whether it's an upbringing or currently whether it's a divorce, separation, and just trying to figure it out. So hence the name Diversity Dad.
Jamal, I want to thank you for sharing this story with us, because it's a real story. It's a real story, and we know there have been many. I think one grew up with both parents, and I can only imagine if one parent was there, the amount of pressure that was on that remaining parent. So I know you've got to be taking your lessons for your mom for the good job that she did.
No, absolutely. And, I also want to just be aware of me highlighting, again, speaking to diversity, are maybe some of the youth out there that are having children at a young age. Again, it's a diverse, it's not the quote unquote traditional American, upbringing. There's some challenges in that. So again, it's reaching out to our African American youth, Latino youth, youth of color, but also, youth that may be going through that situation, but primarily speaking to our African American, Latino folks out there.
No, I think that's definitely positive, and that's a type of conversation that needs to happen. I mean, since every other conversation is happening now, nowadays, and if we can sit here and we can talk about who's better, if Drake or Kanye are better, or if Eminem is going to go at this one, then we need to take the time out to have an adult conversation about topics that you were just talking about. I love the fact I've listened to the podcast with Superman.
Yes,
Superman, the author, the authors of Superman.
Correct, Bellagio.
Yes.
Is that the one that you're referring to?
Yes, that was the one I was referring to, and I got to tell you, I just like, number one, what your podcast represents, what your website, and really what you overall represent, because there is that struggle that exists out there, and I think there is a lack of resources out there for people that are like you said, are dealing with a situation where there's one parent in the household, where there's a, I won't say that where there's a lack of resources, but where the resources are somewhat constrained.
Absolutely.
Situations like getting into school or dealing with, like, I think before you came on, I was talking about, when my kids would have to go to their CYO events, and I'm driving here or I'm driving there. It's a big difference. Like when two parents are doing it is one thing. It's manageable. But when one parent is doing it, that stress, that pressure is on them, because they're going to, as parents that I had spoken with before in the past, and I hope I don't offend any, that they're going to overcompensate. And overcompensating is not a bad thing, but they're going to overcompensate, and they might stress their own selves out trying to make sure that, hey, I don't want my child to ever be without, so I'm going to go the extra distance. But there's ramifications behind that. So tell me this much: do you do mentoring on the side? Because I've been to the website, I've seen it's full of all types of information.
Yes, I am starting to do mentoring on the side, relatively new at it, but just want to reach out to all the folks that are listening to this to the show. Please, by all means, contact me. Again, I am a new dad, but really it goes to speak to common sense and experience. I may be experienced just as far as just when I'm dealing with the youth, as far as just being a couple steps ahead of them, having went through school or what have you, or just in a different space in my life. So definitely able to reach out to them. But as far as just dads, maybe older dads that have kids of various ages, I'm working with. I'm trying to put a team together that can speak to those resources. So if I don't have an answer, I can direct you to someone that can answer your question or has been through that similar experience. And I also am currently right now going through getting a life coach / parenting coach certification. So I'll have that, which will provide me, a little bit more, cachet in a sense to speak on certain areas. But again, I'm just trying to lend a support, lend a helping ear, and just wanted to really start with that before anything else, as far as just like any certifications or anything like that. So it's just here for support, here for dads that want to reach out to me.
So Jamel, since you are per se not a new dad, but tell us, like, any given day when you wake up, as the dad of your 18-month-old, what does it consist of?
Right. Well, it just consists of just helping out, being of support, right? Which I try to do with Diversity Dad, but also that my first job is to be a supporter to my wife and my child. So it may be, helping, getting her dressed in the morning, helping, fix breakfast, helping do her hair. So I did her hair this morning, just to give you some context to kind of my morning. So my wife was getting busy, kind of getting ready, and she's like, "Why don't you do Simone's hair?" And I'm like, "Okay." So I'm calm and cool and collective on the outside, but sweating inside because I'm nervous. So just trying to wrangle in this little body to sit still and try to, I guess, put some type of design in her hair, a little like pigtails. So I tried to do two, and it didn't work. So I said, okay, let's just focus on one. It's one little pigtail on top, and that was a chore. I felt like I had to take a shower afterwards. So I was sweating and nervous and getting cramps in my hands because this little child, won't sit down. So when my wife was done getting ready, she said, "Well, let me see her. I'll show you how to do it." And gosh, she did her hair, and it took her like 2 minutes. But it's a learning experience, right? Me being a new dad, but also any dad out there going through a certain situation and not sure how to navigate it. Whether it's a divorce and not knowing how to navigate the legal systems. Again, I am putting together a team that can, help with those situations. I haven't been through it per se myself, but I can definitely get you in touch with the right people that have been through those situations and can speak to how to navigate maybe the adoption process or divorce process without getting, without speaking on too serious of legal terms. But, again, it's all about support. Support from home, from your wife helping you out, to support of what we're trying to do with Diversity Dad.
No, that's understood. So on your website, it says free coaching session. So what does that entail? So let's say if I click on your website and I go to it and I click on the radio button for free coaching session, what would one person expect?
Yeah, it's just a 30-minute coaching session just to talk about, anything that you may be going through with your child, or maybe personally yourself as a dad, as a new dad, experienced dad, maybe a person in a quote-unquote dad-like role. It's just really talking through the situation and seeing if we can come to a common ground of if we can help you, come to a solution with your issue or concern. Or, out of that 30 minutes is really just focusing on and providing as much value as I can to the client. And it's up to them if they would like another session. The second session is wouldn't be free, but would be a minimal cost, just to kind of dig deeper and deepen the understanding of me to this client, and then obviously finding out resources, whether it's from me or from another person to help this client out.
How often do you do podcasts?
So I try to do the podcast a couple Thursdays a month. So maybe two to three Thursdays a month. I haven't been. Well, we have an episode coming up here soon, and we just try to get all different sorts of guests, whether it's everyday dads or whether it's entrepreneurs or authors, athletes, just kind of various ranges of voices that needs to be heard out in the fatherhood society.
What has been your most interesting conversation to date?
I think my first guest was just one of my best friends, and you ask questions as far as just me knowing everything about him. I would ask him questions on the anticipation of my daughter, as far as like what should I look out for, and how to burp her and how to do certain things. But he really did a great job as far as just the details of how he feels as far as just being a father, and how to support his wife, because I wasn't sure on how to do that. Like, I thought I had a good idea, and I didn't know that my wife and our relationship would change so dramatically with having a daughter. I thought it was just right. another body, another mouth. Like, we're excited, but things should be the same, and that wasn't the case. So really, it was almost like therapy for me, and that's what I call my podcast. It's almost like a therapy. Granted, I'm asking the questions of these dads, but it's also helping me a lot. Like, that's a great point, or maybe I should look up that as well and find more information on that. So I think just my first guest, Cedric Hamid, so excuse me, episode 1 is an amazing episode.
I Jamel, the one thing I noticed is so I've been doing this specific Late Night Parent podcast is coming up on 2 years. Met a whole lot of people. I mean, I can tell you, it's been, you say your podcast is therapeutic. Definitely, I would say yes, enriching, therapeutic, all the above, because of the different people that you meet from, all over the world. So it could be, being local in the studio, talking with someone, whether it's a community activist or educator or entrepreneur, to the point one night I was talking with someone from Bahrain, and we were talking about his Muslim faith, and it just runs the full gamut. So I understand what you mean when in regards to talking about your podcast and the different people you've met. What you mentioned also earlier about that relationship changing, yeah, definitely, without a doubt. I'm looking at your site and it has a recommended book. Dad, I really here's what I really need from you. Is a recommended book. I mean, who wrote that and why is it near and dear to you?
Yeah, this is a special book. So Dr. Michelle Watson, who created the ALBA project. So it's the ALBA project caters to dads with daughters, and just really gets deep within kind of the psyche of a dad, and maybe if he's struggling with his daughter as far as just knowing his daughter's heart. And when I'm finding out, and I don't have a son obviously, but raising a daughter or a woman, young lady, is different than raising a boy, young man. So it just really just speaks to Michelle, Dr. Michelle Watson and her project as far as just taking that one specific niche, right, a dad and their daughter, and really just setting the layers and really, being intentional as far as just knowing, why the daughter won't speak to the dad, or why is the dad kind of nervous to approach the daughter on certain things, and it just that book just really just resonated with me, and there'll be other books on there that I put as far as just Dr. Jennifer Jordan. That would be the next recommended book, Dadly Wisdom, which is we'll put on there here in the month or so to come. So it's really just enriching your knowledge, because the one thing that I'm learning, and that I'm usually prideful about, is just knowing stuff, right? I'm just prideful. It's like, yeah, I know that, I know a little bit about this, but as far as just raising a child, I had no idea. And I'm just so grateful to be introduced to people like you, or people like Dr. Watson, that can enrich not only me, but the entire world on what it means to be a good parent.
Oh no, I definitely hear you. It's like I said, it's something. It's so funny because Dr. Rox and I, we attended an event last week, and it was an iHome event, and then we had dinner after, and we were talking about ways to enhance this podcast, and I got to tell you truthfully, I take I listen to people's opinions, and I said to myself, I've got to take more time out to get more of the dads on here. We sit and we talk with everyone. I mean, like I said, near and far, but I want to take more time out and focus on the dads and, the dad bloggers that are out there, because it's our story that's really not being told. You compare
right.
in any given occasion, you look at, Blog Her, compared to any of our conferences, and it's day and night. I think the dad bloggers need to take more time out, or we need more of the focus on us, because it's sad to say, Jamel, a lot of times when you hear stories about us, and when I mean us, I mean men, it's the fathers that aren't doing what they need to do. It's the deadbeat dad. It's the he's not worth X, Y, or Z. So you hear about these crazy stories, but then every once in a while you hear a good story. You hear about a story like yourself. You hear about the men who are making a difference in their children's life, and where some men they want a pat on the back, but this is stuff that we're supposed to do. We should be doing this, and but like I said, that story doesn't get out. We don't hear it. We always hear the negative side of it.
Right. And why do you think that? Do you think just because of race involved with African Americans always being, or seems to be a topic in the news as far as what's wrong with parenting amongst the African American man, Latino man? Here we go again. Just something's going wrong with them, and it's, in my opinion, we're given a bad rap. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, so here's the deal. And I've said this before. America has a race problem. Period. America has a race problem, and I've chat with friends all over through group messaging applications and everything else like that. There, you have to look at the leadership. You have to look at the overall divide, and the divide I'm talking about, Jamel, is in not only in jobs, because unemployment is double with African Americans. So like when we hear the jobs report at the start of a month about the previous month, and when we hear, it's 4.9%, that rate or that number is double or tripled when you consider and you factor in Black and Latino. So there's a divide in health, education, wealth, and overall achievement gap. There's so many different issues, but you got to think about it. The other piece on this is the divorce ratio, which is so high. So you have Black people, African Americans, that don't get married versus, Caucasians or white Americans that can't stay married.
Right.
So there's a couple of things that are always happening that, that shift always happens. So the single family household is, something else. The fact that you look at overall population in jails, 44% of the population in jails are Blacks, even though we make up a 13% general population.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot to factor in that we're listening nowadays. I mean, every day there's a soundbite between our two main presidential candidates, but you sit here and say, what is going to help us? I mean, because we're dealing with, number one, with African American fathers. You're dealing with poverty. You're dealing with racism. You're dealing with militarism. You look at any local neighborhood, and what are the two things that we're hearing nowadays? We're hearing community policing, and that the community isn't talking to the police, and vice versa. It's really more policing on the community. So there's factors here. There's a lot to go into, but the fact of the matter is, it's when you look out in the media is quick to show you that broken home, or they're quick to show you the individual who, there might have been a situation. Well, let's look at his upbringing. Let's look and see if this person has been arrested. I mean, Jamel, 1 out of 3 African American males have been arrested.
Yeah. Sad.
It's sad, and it's really serious. It's a really serious situation. So when you find out about the ones that are doing the right thing, that are really making things happen, you celebrate them. You celebrate them, and you say those are the ones that should be put on a pedestal. And I mean, I can go on for hours and hours. I can go on for hours and hours about this topic, but those are just some of my immediate thoughts on it. I just think, and it's kind of become like an elevator speech when we start to talk about race, and we start to have these discussions about the household, and talk about being an African American. I like the fact that your blog is offering more than a lot of other blogs that are out there, and the fact that you're into the parental and life coaching, because that's something that's a skill set that people will need. Hey, there is a lack of resources that are out there, and the fact that you've identified it, and you're actually making a difference out there.
Right. No, and I appreciate that. And as I said, I'm at the beginning stages of what we're trying to put together, and we have some really good stuff coming down the pike. But it's going to take a community, right? It's not going to take just my interest, just because I think fatherhood is needed. It's going to take your voice. It's going to take Dr. Michelle Watson's voice, and other fatherhood podcasts, other mom podcasts, to put everything in perspective as far as just being a good parent, and in the context of what we're talking about, being a great father.
It's so true. I just say, overall, being a parent is one thing, and we can all sit here and talk about it on our our weekly podcast or bi-weekly podcast. But when you factor in being an African American parent, there's a different layer, because some of the stuff that we're talking about, other folks aren't going to be talking about it, because it doesn't affect them. It doesn't impact them. And that's where I kind of see it. It's rough. Tomorrow I'm having a conversation with 3 ministers. And we're going to talk about black on black crime. Well, how do we address it? What are we doing? Because there's some gentlemen that are going to be in New York, Long Island this weekend at one of the local parks out here at Campbell Park. And I said to them on the Saturday radio show, I said, before we can sit here and try to correct this and try to identify some of the issues that are happening, where are the jobs? Are you coming with a solution for jobs? Because that's a piece of it. Some of these people, or X amount of these people, are making these bad decisions and choices because they can't provide for their specific, for their family, the necessities that are needed. And you got to address the jobs portion of it. Of course, you got to address the education portion of it. But if they can't provide, you look at any situation, any type of National Geographic TV show that you've watched, and then, when a specific animal that's in the wild, whether they're in the, they're out there in the wild, they're going to, you take a tiger or you take a lion or whatever, they're going to claw away and they're going to do whatever they need to do to provide for the young. Now, I'm just factoring in, that Latinos and African Americans, I mean, you have this high crime rate. You have this black on black crime issue. How do you combat it? You combat it through education. You combat it through related services. You combat it through jobs. Because if I have a job, I have a feeling that I'm not going to be out there doing something foolish like, selling drugs or doing something stupid like that. If you're naturally able to provide for your family. I mean, it's just a thought, but those are some folks that I'm going to have just an open discussion with them tomorrow night. We're going to talk, set the timer for an hour. I don't know if it'll go a half an hour or if it'll go longer, but just to see, just to have the discussion, to see what's going on out there. That's some of the stuff I'm talking about. But I'm telling you, we need to do more forums like this and get the African American dads together and talk and get all the dads together to just talk and discuss some of the stuff that they're going through. I mean, we go through it on Facebook. We talk through it on Facebook, but sometimes we need, a different forum. We need to use a different forum. So I don't know your thoughts on that.
I
what do you think of it?
It starts with, I think it starts with the African American dads not worrying about impressing others, because I think that's a problem in our Black society, that we want to impress others that we don't like, we don't know, and I think that stems and that creeps into fatherhood as well, as far as just like, paying attention to other things. Maybe it's who knows, and I don't have a great example, but not putting the focus on your children as it should be. Not, and I think it starts there, and having that conversation, with these Black dads, as far as why are you doing this? Where's the focus? The focus should be on the family. But who are we to say? To tell them how to parent, right? Because that's a touchy subject for anyone. No
it is.
Parent, regardless of race, wants to hear you or anyone telling them how to raise their kids. So it's just really just having them first be honest with themselves and seeing if they want to get better, right? And I think that's what the forum should be about, as far as just, if you want to get better, then come here. If you want to be a great dad, and if you want to make a difference in your household, along with the community, come to this forum. And again, I'm not sure how to do that, but just kind of speaking in terms of what us African American dads should be doing and should be focusing on, not focusing on the external, but really the internal, and it starts with the home, starts in the household.
Jamel, I think you're dead on, and I think it starts with conversations like this, and they just multiply, and it's going to start from, maybe every month you come on for a segment. Every month I come on for a segment of your show, and then it just spiderwebs from there, because there's a common cause. There's a common goal also amongst all of us, that what we're talking about is how do we make things better? How do we address these problems that are happening? How do we keep those issues outside of our households? Because we've all seen those type of issues where you're like, oh well, I don't want to deal with an issue like that. How to have those open, honest conversations with kids about drugs and why it's bad for them. It's a serious situation out there, and like I said, you have a daughter who's 18 months old. Um, it's like you've already started that new journey, and every day is going to be something new. So I think it's really productive and it's positive to have these type of conversations because, maybe there's something that people might want to hear or might not want to hear, but just as you said before, no one wants to hear you telling them how to parent. That's one way for you to turn everyone off to say, oh, well, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing this. The best we can do is give suggestions.
Right. No, absolutely.
So,
suggestions and honest feedback as far as just, if this is the situation that you're in, you don't have to stay in it. You can always change it. And it's hard for our Black people to see that sometimes, as far as just you see, what's going on now, how is it affecting you now? Same with, I want this lifestyle now, I want to drive this car, I want it now, and just to kind of switch that mindset, and that's a bigger discussion of how to attack some of these issues that we're going through, regardless of marital commitment, as far as just having kids outside the marriage, down to violence.
It's true. That's really true. It's something where you can talk about. You can go an hour a week and just talk about that specific topic, or you can choose a topic and dissect it for an hour, regardless of the topic itself. You can sit there and say, okay, so here's my past experiences with this, and just as you mentioned before, today's society, they don't want to wait for anything. Today's society is that society, hey, I want it right now. I want it right now. I'm not waiting. And that's the answer. And it's, sadly, nowadays it's the norm. That's accepted. That's accepted where, hey, I'm not going to, I remember, years ago, you would have to put in work for something. You would have to put in work, and then there's a specific goal. Nowadays, it's, there's no long-term goals. It's just short-term goals. And it's just like, hey, I want this car right now. I want this new TV. I want this pair of Air Jordans. I want, nowadays you have people that are just so short-sighted where, there's no food in the refrigerator, but, the kid has every type of, designer type outfit. And that's what
right.
some of the youth are dealing with.
Right.
And I guess there's no governing body. Oh, no, go ahead.
Absolutely. No, I was just going to say before, you can take situations like that, as far as just having the latest and greatest and not being able to pay your bills. And some of that kind of seeps into parenting as well, into fatherhood, with the African-American dad. And, it's not going to, obviously it's not going to be changed overnight, but just having the dialogue to acknowledge it as a problem, and maybe not tackling both at the same time, but being aware of it and taking the steps to address it yourself, and then I think that'll trickle down to your children, as far as just, hey, maybe we should wait on those sneakers. Let's go out and hang out together, or let's put our money towards just going on a vacation, just you and I. I think it will start to change that mindset if first that father strips down the layers of wanting it now and being in the mix, so to say, of today's society, and it's really just having that self-awareness of wanting to change.
No, it's definitely true. It's definitely true. Well, I gotta tell you this much. I want to thank you for jumping on. I know you were dealing with your little one and everything else like that. This is the first time we're talking. It definitely won't be the last. You're always welcome to use this platform however you need it. And I will be pestering you about jumping on your podcast to just have an open discussion and keep the dialogue going.
No,
tell us this. Tell us best ways to get in contact with you or to find you on social media.
Yeah, the best way to get in contact with me is well, a couple ways. You can follow me on Facebook at Diversity Dad, or go to my website, diversitydad.com. I also have a Instagram page at Diversity Dad, and through my my website, I have a free course. It's a short mini course, just speaks to how to find time, how to find more time to spend with your family. It's a short 5-minute video, but it kind of goes through Stephen Covey's matrix on certain areas of where you can cut out to find more time, and it has a twist of taking that matrix and putting it towards parenting. So I hope a lot of you go to my website and get that information to get that free video.
Gotcha. Well, I definitely want to give you a round of applause.